On intelligence. Senator, good to have you on the program. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
First off, your reaction to the president's move in terms of medical troops going to Africa.
You know, once again, the world turns to the United States when there's a crisis. This has the capability of spreading throughout Africa and being brought home. And so it is in our interest to get engaged here. But, you know, it's U.S. has the capability of doing so many things. Other parts of the world need to step up and help us, but they turn to us. And we have to understand that when these threats are in the process or potentially can spread throughout the world, we need to take a leading role. So I do support this effort.
Yeah, and we're training up to 500 healthcare workers a week for up to 6 months. So we're trying to train those people on the ground as well. Let me ask you about training and about the fight against the Islamic State. Where are we in terms of progress on the strategy from your standpoint?
Well, we're far from having a strategy that, in my opinion, will bring us to the goal of terminating ISIS. This is going to be a real effort that has to take place on the part of the President and his Secretary of State and the United States in getting Muslim countries in particular to join us in this effort. They're the next in line, and they have a stake in this. And really, we cannot solve this problem alone. We've proven that through Iraq and Afghanistan. We've got to have Muslim nations standing with us, the moderate nations, if we're going to address this threat to that whole area, and it does also come back to us.
But are they standing with us? I mean, the president wants a coalition, but do we have the players on the ground that are willing to join that coalition?
Well, so far, just a lot of talk, but not action, and so we need to tie that down to make it certain. The United States cannot do this alone simply by bombing or training some rebel forces in Syria. And if we're going to deal with ISIS, which we need to do because it is a major threat, we're going to have to do far more than what the president has already announced.
How is it possible that ISIS has become as strong as it has, whether it be financially? I know they're selling oil and human trafficking, black market, but it feels like this group has become more powerful than Al-Qaeda or any other terrorist group that we know of.
I don't think we've seen a terrorist group with this kind of organization, this kind of manpower, and this kind of resources to fund what they're doing. We haven't seen that, at least in my lifetime. And so I think not leaving a residual force in Iraq after we withdrew every last soldier out of there, opened the door, left a vacuum, they filled it. They seized these resources through kidnapping and ransoms, through robbing banks and looting towns, and also through oil that they've captured, and so they're well resourced. So it's a formidable force that's going to take a formidable effort to deal with.
I guess, you know, we're going to be up against the midterm elections, and the whole discussion about budgets and allocating capital will once again become front and center. We've been cutting budgets for the military. Does that reverse course?
You know, we're facing two major threats here. One is a health threat in Africa, which we have to contain, and another is a threat in the Middle East, which we have to defeat. And we're in the process of drawdown now, and because we were told that everything's fine, we can take our troops out of there, the world will be safe, U.S. is not needed. Well, the world didn't listen, and it doesn't cooperate that way. It just doesn't follow what our leader, the president, says. And so here we are looking at a military that's being drawn down with ever more demand for use of that military to address these threats. So we're going to have to revisit this whole question.
Where would the money come from? Knowing the cost of Obamacare, the cost of war, I mean, where does the money come from?
Well, ultimately, all of it comes from the American people, and the last thing we want to do is impose more taxes and more regulations on our economy, which is limping along. So I have been saying ever since I've been serving in the Senate since 2010, we have to address some of the spending here that is out of control. We have documented hundreds of billions of dollars that are just simply wasted here. Let's take the money that is used for a program, the very marginal benefit, and put it into the priorities before we go to the American people and ask them for more tax dollars.
Senator, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much.